I moved into the neighborhood 6 months ago. Quiet little cul-de-sac just outside Houston, sun-baked sidewalks, trimmed hedges, retirees who watered their lawns like it was a full-time job. It wasn't flashy, but after years in the city, it felt like peace. My name's Marcus. I work plainclothes for HPD, Harris County Division. We don't exactly drive squad cars. Our vehicles blend in, intentionally. Dark grey Dodge Charger. Tinted windows, gov plates, no decals. It looks like something your cousin might drive to work if your cousin were watching a cartel handoff from behind a laundromat. I kept to myself mostly. Said hello when I checked the mail, waved at the folks walking little yapping dogs. Nothing more than that. I figured if I didn't make waves, I wouldn't get pulled into the whirlpool of suburban politics. And for the most part, that worked until Karen. Now, I didn't know her name at first, just that she drove a pearl-white Lexus, had 2 flags in her yard, one American, one with an eagle and a slogan about liberty, and that she walked the block every morning like she was conducting a military patrol. Clipboard, sunglasses, resting, disapproval face. I'd see her out there, jotting things down, like she was the neighborhood census taker. My car parked on the curb must have offended her patriotic sensibilities. I got home late that Thursday, dead tired from a surveillance gig, downtown, and found a bright orange slip under my wiper. Unauthorized parking, HOA violation. Handwritten. No signature. Just the word Karen in all caps, underlined twice. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because she had no idea who she'd just tried to mess with. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and whether you've ever had a Karen moment in your own neighborhood. At first, I was going to ignore it. Seriously, I've dealt with cartel enforcers, meth heads, armed with more firepower than common sense. A cranky neighbor with a Sharpie and a clipboard didn't exactly rattle me. But then I saw her again the next morning, standing on the sidewalk across the street from my house, arms crossed, staring at my car like it had just insulted her patio furniture. Her lips moved as she spoke into her phone. I couldn't hear her, but her expression said it all, full throttle neighborhood righteousness. Then, that same afternoon, I came home to another ticket, this time in a plastic sleeve taped to my window. Second notice, vehicle left for extended period, violates subsection 14B, subject to towing. My car had been parked there 8 hours. My badge was still clipped to my belt when I yanked the paper off. I looked up and saw her, Karen, peeking through her blinds like she was in a low-budget spy movie. When our eyes met, she actually ducked. I shook my head, so I did what anyone would do when someone's picking a fight without realizing who. You are? I let it simmer. Saturday morning, I walked out to the curb with a cup of coffee, leaned on my charger, and waited. Sure enough, here she came, marching down the sidewalk, clipboard in hand like Moses with commandments. She didn't even hesitate. "Sir, you're not allowed to park your vehicle on the street overnight," she said, voice clipped, tone practiced. "You've already been issued 2 warnings." I sipped my coffee. "You got a badge, Karen?" Her mouth opened, closed. "Excuse me?" I said. "Are you law enforcement? Code enforcement? City? State? Federal?" She blinked. "No, but—" "I'm the head of the Neighborhood Compliance Committee," I smiled. "That's cute." She didn't like that one bit. She straightened up like I'd challenged her authority in front of a crowd, which, to be fair, I kind of had. Old Mr. Vasquez across the street paused in the middle of watering his lawn. Even his little dog tilted, its head like it knew something was about to go down. "I don't find that funny," she said, her jaw tightening. "Didn't mean it to be funny," I replied. "Just letting you know this car's a government vehicle, registered through the city of Houston. You're not authorized to touch it, cite it, or have it towed? Her eyes narrowed. Government vehicle? Then why isn't it marked? I leaned off the car, stepped in a little. Because some of us don't work in uniforms. We blend in so folks like you don't see us coming. That rattled her. Not enough to shut her up, though. She sniffed. Well, that doesn't change the fact that it's against HOA regulations to park on the curb for more than 24 hours. If you live here, you're still subject to the rules, no exceptions. I didn't flinch. And if you have a problem, you can file it properly with the HOA board. Until then, stop touching my vehicle. You leave one more ticket, I'll file for harassment. Now maybe I should have walked away then, but she looked so smug, standing there in her salmon-colored visor, trying to puff herself up like she ran the neighborhood. So I added, and next time you scribble your name on a fake ticket, try not to write it in glitter pen. Her face flushed crimson. She turned, without another word, and stormed off down the sidewalk, her sneakers smacking the pavement like she was trying to stomp out her own embarrassment. But something told me this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 2 days later, I got the letter. It wasn't handwritten this time. It was official-looking, typed on HOA letterhead, with a watermark and everything. Formal citation, ongoing vehicle violation, it read. Failure to comply may result in vehicle removal at owner's expense. It was signed by Karen M. Davenport, acting chair of the HOA Compliance Committee. She'd made it official. I chuckled. Bold move. I wasn't about to let her see me sweat, but I knew how these games played out. Once someone like Karen realized they could weaponize a little power, they didn't stop until someone put them in check. So that night, I filed a formal rebuttal to the HOA. Included photos of my government plates, a copy of my credentials, redacted of course, and a detailed note citing federal law about tampering with unmarked law enforcement vehicles. But while I was being civil, Karen was doubling down. The next morning, I came out to find my car marked. Someone had placed a bright yellow boot-shaped sticker on my back window. Towing scheduled! Final notice! This wasn't just annoying anymore. This was targeted. I knocked on 3 doors before I found out what I suspected. Karen had called a private towing company, told them a suspicious abandoned vehicle was sitting curbside. She even had pictures taken from her upstairs window. I called the number listed on the sticker. Some guy named Rick picked up, real friendly, until I told him who I was and what he was about to tow. His voice changed immediately. Wait, are you saying this is an unmarked police vehicle? Yep. Long pause. Then, sir, I sincerely apologize. We're cancelling that pickup right now. Karen didn't know it yet, but she'd just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. I figured the cancelled tow would cool her jets. But Karen? She didn't miss a beat. The next day, I noticed her walking door to door, clipboard in hand, signature sheet attached. She wasn't just coming for my parking spot anymore. She was trying to rally the neighborhood. I kept my distance at first, just watched from my porch with a beer in hand as she pitched her case to whoever answered. I could hear bits of it. Won't follow the rules, brings work drama into a peaceful neighborhood, thinks he's above the law. That last part made me laugh out loud. The irony was rich. But here's where it got interesting. One of the guys she pitched was Doug. Mid-50s, always outside working on his Camaro, Marine Corps sticker on his truck. The kind of guy who doesn't talk much unless he's got something to say. She hit him with the same pitch. He parks illegally, refuses to comply, and now he's threatening legal action. Doug just looked at her for a beat and said, "Isn't that the unmarked Charger from HPD?" She blinked. "Well, yes, but then maybe stop poking the wrong bear," he said. and shut the door on her mid-sentence. It wasn't just him. I started getting little nods from neighbors when I walked by. Subtle support. Turns out half the block had gotten warnings or notes from Karen over the past year. Mailbox too short, lawn too long, porch light too bright. She'd built her little kingdom on fear of fine print and passive-aggressive threats, but now, her biggest mistake, she'd picked a fight with someone who knew the law and had a badge to back it up. And right then, something occurred to me. Karen wasn't just annoying, she might be impersonating a government official. I didn't make the decision lightly. But once I started digging into what she'd done, it wasn't just about my car anymore. It was about how far she'd gone to pretend she had authority she didn't. I called in a favor. Not an official investigation, not yet, just a quiet look-up. Internal records showed Karen Davenport had never held a municipal position. No code enforcement credentials, no contracts with the city, but here she was, signing letters with city ordinance codes, issuing citations with language that mirrored actual legal summons, and more importantly, threatening towing on a government vehicle. I took it all to our legal liaison. He took one look at the stack and whistled. "She's lucky she didn't get herself charged already," he muttered. This toes the line of impersonating a public servant." He paused, flipping through a few pages. "And that towing company? If she lied about jurisdiction to get them to move a vehicle, that's a separate charge. That's when it got personal." He handed the paperwork back to me and said, "You want us to pursue this?" I hesitated for a second, but just a second. "Nah," I said. "Not yet." Because Karen wasn't just reckless, she was convinced she was untouchable. And people like that, they don't back down when they get scared. They back down when they get embarrassed. So I decided to give her one last out. That night, I wrote a formal cease and desist. Included copies of the statutes she'd violated. Bolded the parts about criminal impersonation and misuse of enforcement authority. I mailed it, certified, straight to her door. And then I parked my Charger right back in the same spot, wheels perfectly straight, front license plate shining in the glow of the streetlight, just waiting. The next morning, I watched her step outside, like she did every day, robe, coffee, the same stiff gait like she was walking into a courtroom. She reached for her mailbox, pulled out the certified envelope, and froze. Her face twisted up like she'd bitten into something sour. I saw her tear it open right there at the curb. Her eyes scanned the page, lips moving silently as she read. And then, just for a second, her hands trembled. She clutched the paper tighter like she was trying to will it into saying something different. She didn't look across the street at me. Not once, but I knew she knew. For the next few days, Karen went quiet. No clipboard, no tickets, no flags added to her lawn. Just silence. But I knew better than to take that as surrender. So I called a neighborhood meeting, not a formal one, just a backyard thing at Doug's house. We grilled burgers, passed around iced tea, and invited everyone on the block. It started casual. Then someone brought up the compliance committee, and just like that, the floodgates opened. Turns out Karen had overstepped with almost everyone, threatening fines for wind chimes, grilling too close to a fence, even flagging someone's holiday decorations as non-seasonal. She had been acting as judge, jury, and executioner for over a year, and everyone had just let it happen. Until now. The end of the night, we'd come to an agreement, file a collective complaint with the HOA board, demand an audit of her role, vote to strip her of her so-called committee powers. It wasn't personal anymore. It was about setting something right, and as I looked around that backyard, at neighbors who used to just nod at me from across the street but were now swapping stories and laughing together. I realized something. Maybe she'd picked the wrong guy to mess with, but I was exactly the guy this neighborhood needed. It happened 3 days later during a hot, sticky afternoon, when the air felt too heavy to move. I was out front washing the Charger, nothing flashy, just a bucket and a hose, letting the suds run down the wheels. A couple of the neighbors had walked over to chat, making small talk, watching the suds collect on the curb. Then the Lexus rolled. Up slow, purposeful. Karen stepped out in full Karen regalia, oversized sunglasses, crisp khaki pants, and that same thin-lipped determination like she was about to win a debate no one asked for. She marched straight toward me. "I got your letter," she said, voice tight. I stood up, wiped my hands on a towel, and gave her a calm nod. "Figured you did. You're threatening me with legal action?" "No," I replied evenly. "I'm giving you a chance to stop impersonating someone you're not. There's a difference." Her face flushed. "I am not impersonating anyone. I'm a committee chairperson. I represent this neighborhood." "Karen," I said, stepping just a little closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "You signed 2 documents using official language and codes you're not authorized to cite. You called a tow company under false pretenses to move a government vehicle. You left handwritten tickets with made-up citations. And you tried to start a petition targeting a sworn officer over a car legally parked on a public street. I let that hang. You overplayed your hand." She opened her mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to deny, but something in my tone stopped her. Then Doug walked over. "You're not going to apologize, are you?" he asked bluntly. "You're just going to keep pushing until someone presses charges." Karen looked between us, at me, at Doug, at the handful of neighbors gathering on the sidewalk behind us. Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "That's the thing," I said. "You did. And now everyone could see it." Karen didn't say another word. Just turned on her heel and walked back to her Lexus, her face tight, like she was trying not to cry or scream. Either way, she drove off without another glance. But the silence didn't last long. By the end of that week, the HOA board had received over a dozen formal complaints, not just about her tickets or her tone, but the way she used her position like a weapon. They held an emergency meeting the following Tuesday. No barbecue, no cookies, just a long table, tired faces, and a growing pile of grievances against the woman who'd crowned herself queen of the cul-de-sac. I didn't even have to speak. Doug did it for me. So did Mrs. Nguyen from 2 doors down. And Mr. Vasquez, who never says more than 5 words at a time, spoke for 5 full minutes about how she harassed him over his rain barrel. When it was all said and done, the board voted unanimously. Karen was stripped of her committee role effective immediately. They put a freeze on all citation-style warnings unless issued directly by the board or verified city personnel. And just like that, her little reign ended, not with a bang, but with a vote and a quietly printed memo. She stopped walking the neighborhood after that. No more patrols, no more clipboard. Some days you could still see her sitting on her porch, watching from behind the blinds. But the bite was gone. No more tickets, no more threats. The funny thing was, people started coming out more after that. Backyard cookouts, kids playing soccer in the street again, even a block-wide garage sale got planned, something Karen had discouraged for years because of traffic flow. She didn't lose her house, but she lost the leash she'd tried to keep everyone on. And honestly, that was enough. About a week after the dust settled, I came home to find a small white envelope tucked into my screen door. No return address, no fancy lettering, just my name scrawled in shaky cursive. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper. I let it get personal, it read. I was wrong, that was it. No signature, but I didn't need one. I never responded. Not out of spite, just because some things are better left to quiet endings. Life moved on. The charger still sits on the curb sometimes. No tickets, no stickers, just a car, just another guy on the block. But now the nods from neighbors aren't just polite, they're real. The kind you give to someone who showed up when it counted. One afternoon, I was sitting on the porch, sipping coffee, when Mrs. Nguyen walked by with her grandkids. She waved, then paused. "You know," she said, "it's been a lot nicer around here lately." I smiled. Yeah, funny how that works. Karen still lives at the end of the street. Keeps to herself now, the flags are still there, the lawn's still immaculate, but the clipboard's gone. The power she clung to so tightly, gone with it. Some nights I catch her looking out her window as folks gather across the street, not bitter, not angry, just out of place, like a character in a story that's already moved on without her. But hey, that's the thing about power built on fear. It only works if people believe in it. The second they stop, the whole house of cards crumbles. I didn't set out to change the neighborhood. I just wanted to park my car and be left alone. But sometimes all it takes is one person standing their ground for everyone else to realize they can too. Funny thing about justice, it doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it just looks like a car parked right where it belongs.